Thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's episode.
Hola, Juan. ¿Dónde está ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? Welcome, Juan. Come on. Guilty horse. Daddy Zach is on his honeymoon. Yep. Only a year and change
after the fact. Yeah. Very on brand for you to start with Spanish. His wedding was in Mexico.
That's true.
And he's pretty fluent.
He's getting good.
He's getting good.
He sounds like the white guy on vacation speaking Spanish, but he's like getting the R's rolling.
Yeah. You know who's really good at Spanish?
Boom.
Macy's husband.
They're both very good.
Yeah, they're both very
white
good.
White guys speak Spanish. We need more of them.
Yeah.
Hey, this week we're so excited. I am very excited. Okay, this is my fucking guy. Our fucking friend.
Yeah.
One of my best friends. Friend of BuzzFeed.
Yeah.
Friend of our real actual lives.
Yeah.
Film connoisseur, critiquer, maker. Someone I've actually been pitching for this podcast for a long time. Yep. He's made 2 whole-ass movies, and one is coming out soon in theaters that we're going to promote a little bit and talk to him about. Our friend, Stephen motherfucking Kanter.
Stephen Kanter. Hey. This is fucking good.
I'm waiting for an audience.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like
a cheer. Should somebody cheer? Should we
Rainie,
add in some?
Thank you.
Thank you. I needed.
Yeah.
Kanter,
great to be
up?
Here. Oh, I'm excited. We're talking movies.
How do you not have a movie podcast?
I don't know.
Why? Well, why don't you have a movie podcast?
Is it too obvious, like White Guy Film School podcast?
No, I'm sorry. I'm answering for you.
No, that's actually it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. You got to talk, and that's why I went into making movies so that like other people could talk more. But we're gonna talk today. We're gonna have fun.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
We're doing before we get into all like the juice of your career, because I want to divert a little from our regular format to talk about indie filmmaking.
Yeah.
But before we get to all of that, we have to talk about this week's film that we chose, that you chose, which is Bedazzled.
Bedazzled.
Should I hit him with the plot?
Yeah, go for it.
Imagine you're a fucking loser.
Oh, imagine
you're a dork.
Every time you're walking down the street, a little comment card comes on your face and says, "You drink from the carton."
You are a fucking dork, and nobody likes you.
Nobody likes you.
Really
hates
sad.
You. Everybody thinks you're a little bitch.
Yeah, truly. Like, what a life. We don't know why he's so terrible, but you just are.
Yep.
And you're played by Brendan Fraser, and you go to a bar one night, and you see your work crush. She's so fucking hot, Allison, and you whisper to yourself, "I would do anything to get that girl." And what's the quinky dink? But the devil is at the bar,
shit.
played
and she's
by
British.
Elizabeth motherfucking Hurley.
Wow, thanks.
The original baddie extraordinaire comes up to you and says, "Hey, boy, I will give you 7 wishes if you sell me your soul."
Yeah.
And thus begins the hijinks of Brendan Fraser wishing for true love. And this is the 2000s classic, 90s classic?
2000. It came out in the year 2000.
Wow.
This is Bedazzled. So
Bedazzled, yeah.
Bedazzled. I love that it's
Bedazzled.
It's 2 separate words that
not
you're
to be
putting
confused
on there.
with the Bedazzler.
No.
Which was a 90s girl toy that you could put gemstone.
Okay.
That's
all right. Yeah.
You're right on schedule, Canty.
Technically.
You're right on schedule.
Yeah.
This is a real toy.
This is a real toy in the 90s. You're way too young. I don't know why I keep looking at you, Rainie, to be you remember?
I think I know. It's
the
got
Bedazzler.
Blue.
Yeah. And you like click it and it would bedazzle anything.
Rainie's like, yeah, I listen to Taylor Swift. I'm kidding. I keep on doing this and it's going to
bejeweled when we walk in the room.
Yeah.
And you could make your clothes rhinestoney, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Canty, Mr. Film Boy, Mr. Movie Guy, Cinema, my favorite director of my friends. Why did you pick this film?
Yeah.
Well, first, was this the first time that you guys saw this movie?
Yep.
Not me. Oh, this was your first time?
This is my first time. Yeah.
This was a classic in my house.
Okay.
Because I would always watch, or I believe that the promo for this had similar promo to The Devil Wears Prada. And so I confused the two for a lot.
Up.
I'm dead ass serious.
You did not.
It was something about, like, maybe it was like a billboard or something like that, to where there were, The Devil Wears Prada has the heel with the
devil
stick or whatever. And then I believe Bedazzled had something heel-like as well.
And it's similar, like, of that era, too. Because I don't know when Devil Wears Prada came out. Probably like a year or two after.
To me, it's been in my life for all of time.
Yeah.
But yes, this
early
was same
2000s.
time. Yeah.
Like, anything that was remotely big budget comedy has like the same poster, which is like very, very white backdrop, studio sort of backdrop, the characters front and center, and like very saturated and doing the face, you know,
the face, the lean. I'm leaning on something or whatever. Yeah.
So that's a natural, but two very different movies.
Very different.
Bedazzled. Yeah. Okay, this is a movie that it's like I couldn't imagine my world without this movie, and it's so weird because it's kind of like most people have not seen this movie. Number one, even at the time, I think like also critically, it's like sitting at an even 50 on Rotten Tomatoes. It was just sort of like a thing that came out, and then like 9/11 happened, I guess, and then everybody forgot about it.
We do talk about that a lot on
we do talk about like pre
9/11 movies.
That's basically genres.
Really?
I miss a pre 9/11 movie. Man.
We were just like more carefree.
Yeah, we were
totally.
We didn't care
and this movie, by all accounts, has like the early 2000s, like late 90s sort of vibe with people working in cubicles in like Globotech, you know, and that's what he does. He works in IT at some computer company, just a completely soulless postmodern sort of existence he lives, which is very much that era. But this movie I think I saw it with my family in theaters. This is before the divorce
wholesome.
too. I know, which makes it even like.
Do you think that this is the movie that divorced your parents?
Divorced the parents?
Is
this the cataclysmic event? The butterfly effect?
I mean, that would be such a better story.
We'll go with it.
We'll go with it
for this podcast.
But I remember just like, and I was like 9 or 10 and just like dying in the theater. Like, and when you're that age, like you're kind of getting the comedy, you're kind of not. But it like just being so bedazzled by Brendan Fraser.
You said the movie.
And I don't know. I've seen it. It was a movie that like, I just, for whatever reason, is like whenever it was on TV, back when you would catch things on cable, like I would always put it on, and it like worked its way into my vernacular.
Yes.
Like, great.
You know what I'm saying?
The most quotable film.
So quotable.
It freaked me out. I was like, that's from this?
Yeah.
That I still say today.
Really?
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
Like I always say,
Hola, Juan, toda Esteban, hasta la biblioteca.
I can't believe that I thought that you
knew that
memorized
exactly.
Yeah. From childhood, I have no idea where and when and how it started.
Yeah.
The other big one is
what do you got?
Wait, shit. Which one was it? Fuck. Somebody's had a teeny bit of too martinis.
That's what I was going to say.
No way.
Yeah, he goes, I think somebody's had too many martinis.
Too martinis.
I mean, the bottom line is like, it's a movie that, and I've seen it countless times. And it's a movie that like everything about it on paper is like not spectacular.
No,
like,
it's not special format. It's a remake, actually.
It's a remake of a 60s film, a Stanley Donen film. The guy who directed or co-directed Singing in the Rain, which is a fun little factoid for you.
Wow.
Stanley Donen, I think. And it's like, I've seen that too because I love this movie so much. But it's different.
So you had to go back and watch the actual classic that made this director.
Film dork.
I mean, you know.
That's so funny.
But it's nothing about it is spectacular when it comes to the plotting. It's pretty generic. It was even generic for the time. I mean, especially now, it's almost, but there's something about it. It's greater than the sum of its parts. This movie. It's like, it's not necessarily, it's kind of hokey, like the way things sort of like just work themselves out.
It's
God
for
sequence.
Sure. Yeah.
And there are like, admittedly, like very, you know, I won't say that anything didn't age well, but it's kind of like just stuff that you're just sort of like rolling around. It's a little cringy.
They would never get away with that in this day. Yeah.
I don't even think that. I'm sorry.
It wasn't that bad, but it was like someone at a studio would go, we got to flag this.
Yeah, I felt like there wasn't anything like Kanter saying. I don't think there was anything that wouldn't have flown or something like that. Where it's just like, oh, you can't get away with this. I do feel like we've just become so far past these
goofy
jokes
ass
or like
comedy,
this like trope and all that stuff.
Yeah.
To where people are like, okay, we can add 3 more punches to this and like do that punchline rather than.
But it's like, in spite of all of that, first of all, it looks like it was so much fun to make.
Yeah,
number one.
Delightful.
I mean, the way that they're reusing the supporting characters, Orlando Jones, the other guys, I always forget their names, but they're all killing it. They get to play like at least 6 or 7 characters.
It's a buffet of character work.
So much fun. And Elizabeth Hurley, like getting to, she's got an outfit change every
6 seconds.
Every 6 seconds.
And Garrick immediately opened his phone.
Yeah, no. I'm just looking at my notes and shit.
I mean, it's
Elizabeth Hurley is hot is all I wrote.
Okay, let's see.
It's literally it.
I mean, and yeah, I don't know. I've always found so much just like true, like pure cinematic, like easy cinematic joy watch this movie. And I watch a lot of types of movies. I don't only watch pretentious Criterion Collection things.
Not you.
But like this movie also, I mean, Harold Ramis directed it.
Which, for those who don't remember the name or are too young, it's like Ghostbuster. He's an actor,
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, comic and a director.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Which is a cool, like,
Yeah.
for back then to have given them the power of both roles was great.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then I think last but certainly not least, and we'll get into it, but like Brendan Fraser is his career is a lot like this movie in some ways because it's sort of overlooked but also appreciated. And like it's gone through like moments of like we forgot about him and then he came back and then
the Renaissance. We did a whole Renaissance.
Yeah, I'm ready to truly fight whoever this agent was or this like behind the scenes person that may or may not have touched him and made him be like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to step away from it or blacklist him, because him in this movie, he is putting on a true fucking masterclass of just being almost like a Ryan Reynolds, where it's just like, I'm very handsome, but also at the same time, I'm pretty goofy.
Yes.
I'm adorably goofy, though.
Yes.
And I'm not putting on airs and saying like, oh, I am somebody who is attractive that is trying to come down to the people downstairs and say like, look at how funny I am. I'm a goofball. It's like, no, I believe that you are actually this adorable person.
Well, let's start there. I feel like we should start with the biggest pleasure of all. I think for all of us can agree is Brendan Fraser's acting. And we've done a lot of his movies. We've done The Mummy. We talk about him a lot and how he's so underappreciated and how this like younger group of filmmakers don't even know his like old stuff. And I feel like this is one of those films where if you thought he was great in The Mummy or The Whale, you have fucking got it. Because it's almost like he was brilliant. Like better than.
He was brilliant then. He was truly brilliant. I don't know why. Or I feel like he was always going to grow into the roles like The Whale.
Like the Steve Carell.
Where it's just like, man, Steve Carell was... I mean, but Steve Carell, even though he was a Second City guy, I believe, right? Or Groundlings, or one of those improv schools. But Steve Carell starting off in comedy and then jumping over to like Little Miss Sunshine, and you're like, oh fuck, he can actually he gets down. This is crazy. Yeah. And with Brendan Fraser, I'm like, him in The Mummy, I'm like, oh, I can tell that you don't want to be doing this for real. You want to be goofier, don't you? You little goofball. You know, and
funny.
Very Hugh Jackman like. Where where it's like
showman.
He's like, I know you want to sing. You want to fucking sing as Wolverine, don't you? Yeah.
And he does Kanter in this one. But for more like context, in this movie, he gets 7 wishes. Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's really only 6. Mm-hmm. And each time he wishes for the same thing, but just a little bit different, which is that he wants to be with this woman, Allison. So we see him in the beginning just simply saying, I want to be rich, I want to be powerful, I want to be good looking, and I want to be married to Allison. And cut to, we find out that wasn't specific enough, because remember, you're dealing with the devil, and it's Elizabeth Hurley, and she throws in the fact that, oh, he's a Mexican drug cartel. That's why he's rich and powerful. And he hates cocaine, apparently. And
his wife is with
Raul. Who she also, spoiler alert, hates you, is not in love with you. Yep. And luckily for Brendan Fraser's character, Elizabeth Hurley gave him a pager that he can dial 666 at any time, and it will bring him back to his regular life if the wish was not what he expected. Yeah. So each time we get to see Brendan pop in and out into these hysterical, blown up, like exaggerated performances of everything from a drug cartel,
Overly
to-
sensitive, dolphin
Oh my
safe tuna loving guy.
An overly sensitive redhead was just in the writer's room.
incredible.
must have been the funniest pitch.
I mean, I'm shocked that they didn't go with that first because of how excited he was while playing that. Like,
yeah,
every
you
time
tell me about watching this for the first time.
Yeah.
Like, did you not expect any of this?
none of it.
Yeah.
Truly none of it.
Were you
Once
like, what the fuck?
No, it wasn't even like a what the fuck. I knew, I figured that this was going to play out. The movie's predictable and
Yeah.
like you know where it's going and all of that, but you're along for the ride, and I didn't expect for it to go as far as character sketch.
Yes.
You know, like I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be a fun little twist on like, oh, he's this guy and he'll probably be powerful in a way where he's like, I keep on breaking things even though I still look like myself.
Yeah.
But as soon as he woke up as a Colombian drug lord, and then he kept on speaking Spanish, I was like, oh fuck. Okay, all right, we're in this world. And then he jumped to the sensitive guy, and I'm like dying every time he looks over at the sunset and he keeps crying. I'm like, this is the funniest shit.
Can you name every single subscription you have? I can think of one important one, right? Second try, that one I like. But some of them, I forget they are even there. And I know I'm not alone. I just learned that over 74% of people have subscriptions they've forgotten about. With Rocket Money, I don't have to remember every single subscription or worry about forgetting any because I can see them all laid out right in front of me. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money's going. For any you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help cancel them with a few tippity taps. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's features. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/guilty. That's rocketmoney.com/guilty. rocketmoney.com/guilty.
He's fully commit, like he's so committed, and maybe I don't know. I mean, like you guys act as well, right? So it's like, I think with comedy, there's probably a little bit of a sense of, well, I mean, it's easier because it's easier to commit because it's having fun. I definitely don't think so.
I think it's fucking harder.
Way harder.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, and it's that though. It's just like this incredibly physical performance too, where it's like obviously there's crazy makeup transformations. They turn him into like an 8-foot tall like basketball player.
We have to talk about it.
I mean, that's the thing is this movie has like at least 6 like vignettes, and they're all such different styles, and they're all so like very, very classic Screwball too.
Yes.
Like them kicking the sand when he's insensitive.
I was like, how did they keep a straight face? There's no way.
Them kicking the sand. This is while you're talking about like the commitment of like comedy and versus drama. I agree that you do have to commit more to comedy because like there was a scene in
which one's he gonna say?
In House of the Dragon.
Oh, I was surprised. I
Yeah.
thought we were going Upgrade.
Right? No, I wish. I wish. All right, there's a scene in Upgrade where but there's a scene in House of the Dragon where they're fighting in the mud, and you're just like, damn, that was probably like a 10-hour day of them just in the fucking mud. That sucks, dog. But in Bedazzled, they're on the sand and they're kicking sand into his mouth, into his fucking mouth, and he has to do the performance.
Yeah.
While sand is in his mouth. I was like, I would beat
insane.
the living shit out of everybody else on set.
And after one take, he was going, no, go do more.
Do more. Because he didn't, because he's a professional. He didn't give a fuck.
I actually noticed on the recent rewatch I did, in that scene, you can see Frances O'Connor, who plays Allison, cracking up.
Yeah.
But she's framed, like
Faced
her hair's
away.
kind of covering her face,
Yeah.
and she is dying.
Yeah.
But he's just, and he's like,
He's in
it's just
it.
chunks are just coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And it's got another great line that I reference all the time where he's like, guys, this is feeling a little bit aggressive. Why don't we all sit down, have some dolphin safe tuna, and see if we can't start a dialogue? I mean, you can't. This stuff happens once in a generation. Moments like that.
And the other part I kept like realizing the brilliance of Brendan Fraser was like, it's hard to do that kind of comedy and it not A, get hokey really fucking fast.
Yeah.
B, not be like an SNL style cheesy sketch comedy thing. Like, I don't know how they kept balancing the jokes and heightening when every single scenario he wishes himself into is funnier than the last.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are they going to top him getting kicked sand in the mouth while he's a redheaded, freckled, sensitive tuna vegan boy? Like, what?
It almost felt like every time they were they're of course doing a genre film, but they were also like making fun of movies at the time. And sure you can do that in sketches, but also like having the main like funny person also be the straight man that's like hard to balance where you're like, oh, this is a weird situation that I have to like now deal with, but also at the same time I'm trying to take it all in and then achieve my goal as well with this person, and then also comment on what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's like there's so many good things I could say about Brendan Fraser and it's all genuine. Like there is something about him, and there's several actors like this and like the best ones, honestly.
It's Glenn Powell. Yep.
Glenn Powell might have this too, where it's like there is something but I think more with Brendan Fraser, there's something so sympathetic about him.
Yeah.
Even
those
though
big eyes.
It's even though he's like a leading man looks, and obviously in this he's like kind of playing like a loser or whatever. But even with that, in the beginning of the movie, he's like objectively an annoying
person.
Yeah,
he's a super annoying guy.
And sorry,
he's terrible.
And I mean, going off of his career in the same way that like I feel like with Donald Glover, his like superpower is that he's a really good writer, and so he can use that skill and talent to do a bunch of different things and be the Renaissance man that he is. With Brendan Fraser, I feel like he just fucking commits. He's going to commit to whatever
like a great
it is.
Actor.
And so like with The Whale, it's just like if I have to commit to being this heavy, I'm gonna let's do it, bro. Like I don't care. Whatever it is, let's do it. Even George of the Jungle, they're like, we gotta starve you, bro.
We did George of the Jungle. I forgot.
Nice.
It's like we gotta starve you, and he's just like, well, I don't think I'm gonna be able to think for a while, and they're like, cool, and it's like, sure, all right, let's do it.
We have to talk about the I think the most committed bit he does, which you briefly brought up, which is him playing the basketball player. So about 3 or 4 wishes in, he says, okay, I'm starting to understand I need better details. I want to be rich. I want to be good looking. I want to be loved by everybody, talented. So I would like to be a basketball player, famous professional basketball player. And she says, your wish is my command. Boom. And he comes out in a insane looking prosthetic, 8 feet tall, his haircut, his sweating. I mean, he's like profusely sweating on a sports reporter for an entire scene. And he is dumb as shit. Like, I don't know how else to describe it.
All because she asked him, how was the game? He starts sweating as he starts to think about the answer.
I mean, I think, he's like, how do you think you played tonight? And it's like, again, the supporting characters are having so much fun as the announcers doing all of like the most extreme versions of the 3 voices you hear in professional sports.
Yeah.
And he's like, I think good would be completely that would completely undermine the sheer virtuosity of the performance you gave. And he's like, we just go out there and give 110%, want to do good.
There's no I team. We all went out there and gave 110%. Like, so funny. Then he gets to go back in the locker room where the version of Allison, who plays a sports journalist, approaches him, being real flirty, making a lot of puns. He's like, oh my God, maybe this will work out after all. I might be dumb, but I got everything she needs from me, until he shifts his towel. And we find out this 8-foot monstrosity of a man has a small penis.
So
damn the devil. Damn the devil to hell. I'm telling you, I got every line. I mean,
truly,
it's so good.
It's so funny. And just when you think you figured out like what the game of the scene is gonna be, they fucking pull the rug out from underneath you. And how could he have kept a straight face that day on set?
Commitment, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to jump on.
No, that was the answer. You answered correctly.
Okay,
ding, ding.
I mean, it's Yeah, and again, it's like, this story, I mean, yes, it's a remake, but it's like, that first film isn't the first time we've seen the deal with the devil. I mean, this is one of the most archetypal, this is the Faustian bargain.
Yeah.
And it is actually surprising what this movie does with regard to like keeping you sort of not necessarily guessing, like what's gonna end happy, but like just how they like work the game in each one. And it's like, it's kind of an amazing story because he's trying to get the girl. He's trying to be something he's not. And he's like,
There's
it's overcorrection. Yeah.
Yeah, because there is a message underneath it all, which we'll talk about. I think it's a little convoluted at the end. I don't quite understand it.
Yeah.
But I feel like would now be a good time to shift. Like, are we all, our seats dry enough to talk about the devil herself?
Oh,
Elizabeth Hurley.
They'll wet right back up. I mean,
anybody else sweating suddenly?
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Like,
I mean, how do you even?
Where do you even?
It's tough. I like.
How do we not objectify the living shit out of
Yeah,
it
is hard. I don't want to.
She's playing a sexy devil.
I do think that this is the original attractive British person. Like the very first, it's her and like Jude Law, and then
nobody else.
Nobody. The first, if anything. Whenever I think of an attractive British person, it is Elizabeth Hurley. Like every single time. But yeah, she's great in this, and she's just having fun. I always love that every time he came back to her, she was in a different like bit of her just like fucking up everything.
Yeah. Like Brendan Fraser, but the reverse.
Yeah. Because it's just like, while you're away, I'm still causing havoc. I'm ruining the
and like
world.
Trivial havoc too. Which is such a great conceit. Like she's giving, she's making the people's like parking meters expire. They're just doing her thing.
She's giving the wrong medication. She's giving candy instead of medication at the hospital.
I loved all of the devil puns.
Yes.
Her in the Lambo Diablo was funny.
Yes.
Her like filing cabinet being a morgue.
Yes.
Morgue drawer.
Like mortuary cabinet.
See, I didn't even pick that up.
Yeah. Like her picture in the background was like Adam and Eve with the apple.
With the apple, yeah.
She
and
plays like a bad
as
teacher at one point.
Yeah. Yeah, she was obsessed with apples, or like there was a lot of apple jokes or things. What else?
They had like a choice to make when you're representing the devil in a movie, right? And we've seen so many tropey, mostly men, goofy or really ugly, really powerful, and they made a choice to be like, no, she's a fucking sex pot, which I'm sure is a weird commentary on women being the devil now that I'm thinking about it out loud. But alas, I stand by that she was like the perfect archetype of the blue eyes, the bustiness, the shape, the outfits. Like she knew what she was doing, and she was chewing on the devil, like the stairs. She just was having a meal out of it.
I also like, so this might be me like diving a little bit too deep into it, but and also jumping to the end again. We said that we were going to try to stay on track.
We have no format.
And
My
then
dad's
we just
gone.
jump. But I do think that her representation of the devil, or the movie's representation of the devil, is if God is like all of like the energy that or our life force throughout the universe or whatever, it almost felt like the devil was the hard lesson that you have to learn throughout in order to like feel that or notice it. And so having all of those like monkey paw situations, it definitely felt like she was like, you need to learn this lesson so that you never ask this again.
She wasn't really the devil. She was like the test.
The
She was
test.
the
Yeah.
giver.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Game maker.
And like in her personality too. I mean, yes, there are ways to sort of look at it where it's like, well, in retrospect, is like, what are we actually saying here? But with the gender thing, but like, if you put that aside for a moment.
Sure. It's 2000s. Let's do it.
I'm sorry.
Well, it's like she's pure seduction.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna say. And like seduction is,
right.
The
Like
devil.
sexy. Yeah. And if you have Brendan Fraser and he's looking at a woman that he wants to be with,
she's got to be.
The seduction has to be a woman that is on par.
Yeah.
If not
More.
Yeah.
And she's also, and it's such a great choice, is like, she's really like, even though she's like evil, quote unquote, like, she's like, I like you. She's like, I really do kind of like you. I mean, bummer I couldn't like take your soul, but
Yeah.
And she like throughout is rooting for him too, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
She's like, hey man, it wasn't me that fucked this up. Like I'm doing my best over here. Do you know how hard it is to be the devil? Like she just did it so well. And I have to imagine too that was such a fun role to play. And like you said they have these clever quick changes where she comes out every other second in a new outfit, whether it's like a patent leather red mini dress or she's got the devil himself at one point with like the trick-or-treat version, red face paint, like horns, and
her being the meter maid one really made me laugh because I was like, oh yeah, they are fucking demons. I hate them so much.
Yeah. And there's like this, I don't know what the metaphor was, but she owns a nightclub that she takes him to that represents like lust and greed and
I think like all the sins, right? Because it's like, it's interesting. Like, well, I guess this is kind of scooting to the end too, but it's whatever.
We're there.
You see it in the beginning, she owns a club. She takes him in for like the signing of the contract. And it's like, it's all these young people and they're all like, Elliot Richards. He's getting out of the car. They're, it's like paparazzi. And they're all like hot, and it's like a cool like Berlin like nightclub. And then later,
Bergheim.
It's Bergheim, totally. Yeah. And then later on, he comes in like in the morning, and it's like kind of gross. And
they're all
older.
They're all old
too,
like
really
they stayed past their date.
Yeah.
That's a good point. So are all of those people that have sold their souls to her?
Oh.
I
would
think
so. Stuck in club purgatory?
I thought it was that, and then also like they were demons as well, or something like that. Where like I don't know if that was the case.
What do you
I think
become
this
when
is
you
me
have
just
no
guessing.
soul?
Yeah, I think you become a club.
A club rat?
Club rat, yeah. You're just
But,
there.
I mean, this is getting into like our takeaways from the movie, but like, according to God in the movie, soul doesn't belong to you in the first place.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
Belongs
that
to
moment,
God.
right?
That's great.
So there's a moment towards the end
Yeah, how
where
do we
Brendan
feel about
Fraser kind of is going crazy. He seeks God. He goes, I got to go to the church because like I don't even know who I can talk to about this fucking devil dilemma I'm in.
Yeah.
The pastor thinks he's fucking crazy, calls the cops on him. The cops come, they
Which like
arrest
isn't
him.
a thing.
You don't go to jail.
A preacher can
for-
call the
Yeah.
cops on it. Like that feels
Feels
Say
weird.
that
out
he's
of
like
contract for
intoxicated,
him.
but like
Yeah.
breathalyzer. I don't know. I mean,
So
anyway.
he gets thrown in jail, and who's sitting in the cell with him but a mysterious man who just happens to be the smiliest guy you've ever seen
in prison.
in prison.
Yeah.
And is like, hey man, like it's all good. Don't worry about it. Like, tell me what your problems are. And he's smoking inside, and you're just like, what's this guy up to?
You can't smoke in jail.
This guy, what's his deal? And he
Yeah.
says, you can't sell your soul to the devil because it was never yours to begin with, and kind of gives the spiel of a Christian trying to convert you. Like, come to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
You
Yeah, a
know,
little
like
bit.
you see the word, God will accept you as you are. And
Yeah.
you're like, what the fuck?
There's like God will accept you as you are. There's like a lot of religious undertones in that. Of course, in that scene. I'm sorry, I don't know
Spoiler
why I'm
alert.
saying it.
Yeah.
But them having it be like, Jesus was someone of the people, and then like God isn't in the church that you think. He's
in the bottom
He's in the
barrel pits
yeah,
of your
right. The
life.
last place you'd expect. He's he's of the people, so he's like he could be in prison.
like
You
that,
don't know.
now
I
that
thought
you
that
say
was I thought that was like a nice little like.
Dude, this is that
Later.
Christian perspective I need.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
As a Jew, you completely missed that.
As a Jew, I was just looking at the writing and
That
was a good bit.
God, yeah.
Right,
Holy
right.
shit. So
Wow, that's actually really
he comes out of that
Yeah.
kind of changed. He's had a night to sleep on it and think about it, and he goes back to his regular life. And Elizabeth Hurley, the devil says, motherfucker, you signed a contract. You
Yeah.
have to make 7 wishes. And he's like, no. I'm not going to
done.
make a 7th wish. I don't want anything. There's nothing I can get from you. You can't give me anything. I can't. I've learned my lesson. And she says, well, too fucking bad. I'm the devil. You have to make a wish. So what does he do? He wishes Allison to have a good life.
Yeah.
oh,
Happy
And
life.
boy, oh boy, bing bong ding dong. The archangels sing. Turns out if you make a wish for the goodwill of someone else, like a unselfish wish, it null and voids the contract.
And there was a point where he almost did that, and she was just like, and then he did, and then he wished to be president, and she was like, okay,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Wait, what was
yeah,
that moment?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
The part before he turned into Abraham Lincoln, which was very fucking
So
funny.
funny.
So good.
And then him waking up and then seeing he's Abraham Lincoln at the
God
theater.
damn.
Like, oh, fuck, no. That's so
Like, we're seeing a
fucking
play?
funny.
It's like, yeah, My
We're seeing
Fair
a
Lady
play.
or whatever. And he's like, I think I've already seen it.
Yeah,
It's brand new. It's like, I think I know the
God.
ending.
Yeah, it's so fucking funny.
Such a goofy
But you're
writing.
right in the wish part of it. It's a good misdirect because he's like, you know what? I want to do something important and good for the people.
Yeah.
And I want to do something that has nothing to do with myself. I want to run for president of the United
Yeah.
States.
Yeah.
Which in and of itself is a great joke.
Yeah.
But you're right. It's like you could see her almost like, no,
Panic.
don't.
Oh,
Yeah.
And then it turns out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a classic. It's
Yeah.
the only way a movie like this can sort of reach its conclusion is that you have to have the sacrifice. You have to have
the moral reckoning, the
Yes.
change, the I've come back,
Yeah.
come to Jesus moment.
The tough,
Literally.
the tough sacrifice also is that he wishes that she has a happy life, and that doesn't involve him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, because he comes back to his
Yeah.
regular life and he's like, all right, you know what, fuck, I'm going to ask her out. And
Can we
it's
talk
like,
about how he's changed?
He's
by the
changed
way, too.
because
He's still our guy.
Yeah.
He's still Elliot
still
Richards.
looks like, himself.
But like they set it up too with the coworkers before it, where like of course they decide to mock him. He comes in, he's just and they're like, I'm gonna do the thing. Oh, hey, Elliot, and then he grabs him by the collar and he's like, good to see you.
Yeah.
Ooh, he's
He's
got
fucking-
brawn now.
He's so cool.
Yeah.
he's
And they don't fuck with him
He's
anymore.
been through a lot.
Yeah.
He's been through
He's
so
seen the
much.
devil. He's seen hell itself.
Yeah.
And he says, fuck it, I'm going to ask Allison out. And she says, I actually have a boyfriend. And you're like, oh, of course. But then can we talk about my truly one guilt with this movie? What the fuck was that ending?
Yeah.
The ending
They,
is-
like her twin, it shows up and moves in next door.
Yeah.
It's
What?
not a good ending.
So Brendan Fraser goes home to see he has a new neighbor moving in, and it's the carbon copy of Allison, his work crush, but her name's Nicole, and she's like
Yeah.
And she's like a
adorkable,
dork.
Yeah.
like him, and then they get together.
It also would have been nice if it was her twin sister.
Oh,
Like it would have been
yeah.
so adorable. It's just like, oh, you work with my sister, and it's just
Yeah.
like, I mean, even like enough. We know that that's a hokey ending.
Yeah.
If it's her twin, we already have the fact that he likes this person, and then it's definitely he likes her face, but it's
Yeah.
definitely not the person that he should be dating or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it was like her twin sister, we're already in like
On board,
Campsville
yeah.
with most of this movie. You're pretty on board if it's just like, oh yeah, I
Yeah,
have
why
a
not?
twin. You want to meet my twin, and then you guys get along.
Yeah.
Because he does do this thing when he sees her where he kind of like points at her and goes, you're,
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait, what am I missing? What's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
the joke? What's the
Right.
piece? Like, did the devil send it for him?
Yeah.
Did God give him a way? Like, I was so confused how that happened.
Yeah.
But
the last like 5 minutes of the movie are a little
Yeah.
weird. Also, this is such a minute thing. And so anyone listening or watching who has seen this movie, I hope you know what I'm talking about.
What?
This is something that I like remembered from the first time I saw it in
Yeah.
theaters. He's riding his bike. I think it's in San Francisco.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He's riding his bike like up a hill. First of all, he's zooming up the hill.
Zooming up a hill.
strength this
I was
man
like,
had.
he is huge.
I rewound it to see if someone was pulling him.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how is he going vertical up a
doesn't
hill
make
on a
any
bike?
sense.
Yeah.
And like there's a shot that's like on him. It's more direct on him. And you see his face and he like goes up and he's like kind of, as you do, you're kind of like standing biking. And he's just doing this like really cringy like face
Yeah.
where he's like,
Life's okay.
Yeah.
and it's like, it annoyed me so much as a kid, but like rewatching it, I'm like, I think Brendan just knew like how dumb
Yeah, the movie.
this ending is about to be.
Oh,
and like,
got
I'm
you.
just gonna, whatever.
Melt
I'm just
it.
gonna have fun with this.
Just
Okay.
play into it.
I,
fully.
Yeah.
I read it as like he knows the movie that he's in.
Yeah.
You know, like and that's a very hard, I feel like, instinct to kind of get, especially in comedy, where you're like, okay, what kind of movie or what kind of show is about to get cut together right now? What kind of editing are they going to use? Am I going to go all the way and be like, and maybe this is just direction, where it's like the director just really, really knows, like, oh no, this one's going to be pretty hokey,
Yeah.
Pretty goofy.
pretty goofy.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like just lean into that.
Yeah.
But for him to then put on this like truly despicably dumb face.
Yeah.
At the end of it,
It felt like this is the ending of the movie.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Wait, there's one more of a rug pull? Like,
Yeah.
Do we have any fun facts?
We've got, so I texted you some fun facts.
Okay,
Do you guys,
I know one that I discovered watching some, because I wanted to see what like other people had what they had said about this movie. And
the continuity error.
What's the continuity error?
There was a continuity error in on the board.
The eraser.
The eraser. She erases
that.
She erases the equation at the top.
Oh, these are
and
funny.
then it goes back to a wide, and the equation is there.
Okay, these are kind of
Classic.
fun. Okay, so the one that I was gonna say, I don't think you got on here, Rainie, was what if I told you there was another Wish that they filmed and they cut out of the scene, the last movie.
I'm in.
Just give me a guess at what life he wished for.
Oh my God.
The life of like a.
Well,
I'll tell
do we
you,
know
it
when
came in right
what was
after
the order?
President.
Oh, so it was the last
one.
Okay, so because they're usually correcting, they're like overcorrections.
Yeah.
So President, he was trying to do something that was selfless, but not really.
Yeah.
So what would be like the complete opposite of that, essentially?
Like, I mean, does he? I don't know actually. Like what? Because well, does it involve Allison?
Yes. Well, yeah, he still wants to get with her.
Okay.
Is
He's
he-
like a martyr, or he's like some kind of like a. He
Not
does like a
close.
hunger strike. I don't know.
You got any guesses?
It's after
It's after the president,
he
and
wants
it's
to do
like
something important.
no, it's the opposite because he's like that didn't work.
He wants to be like in obscurity and live a quiet.
He wants to be the bad boy,
Oh.
so he's sex, drugs, rock and roll.
Oh.
So there is a like 8-minute scene I watched, and it is. I completely see why they cut it out because I think that audience must have just been like, ew,
What
and
is
this
going
is
on?
so unneeded.
Yeah.
But he becomes a like screamo punk rock star
Yeah.
in like full like eyeliner, like smeared black lipstick, and goes backstage, and Allison is like his lover groupie girly, and she tries to OD herself, and he like pulls the pills out of her mouth, and they start making out, but then as they're making out, like he gets some of the drugs and ODs and falls off the table,
Oh
and
my
his
God.
team is reviving him, and he revives, but then he goes back out on stage and jumps out into the crowd, and nobody catches him, and like he dies.
That's how he dies.
Yes, it was.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It was, but like talking about committing to the bit, like he
Yeah.
was insane
Yeah.
in this part. It was
Oh my
the
God,
most
I gotta
heightened.
see this.
Yeah,
I
I
can't believe it's
highly
available.
suggest.
Yeah.
Looking it up on YouTube.
I
So that was deleted though.
Yeah. I do think that they lucked into a nice little convenience of him making 5 wishes technically of being a monkey paw, or it's just
Yeah.
like usually, you know, you have the 5
Yeah.
wishes or whatever. So it's just like, oh, cool. Nah,
Yeah.
it's 5. Nice.
Yeah.
The
that's
hand is close.
What if I told you that according to producer Trevor Albert, the schoolgirl outfit that the devil wore was actually Elizabeth Hurley's own outfit?
Of course it was. Yeah, we
no
knew
surprises
that.
there.
We knew that.
Sexy. The 7 wishes are based on the 7 sins.
Oh, okay. Well, nice.
See, that's what's interesting about this adaptation, because like I think I remember in the original, in the
Yeah.
60s film, it's like a lot more sort of like
Clear-cut.
literal
Yeah.
with that stuff. And there's like characters like
Yeah.
that work for the devil, like named like Anger and Sloth,
Oh,
etc.
okay.
And I think this one, they just like took it as sort of a device. And then they were like, let's
Yeah.
just like follow a more organic way that
Yeah.
a person would like
Be able to
overcorrect and
understand.
try to
Yeah.
like make a wish that
Sure.
not that last one.
Yeah.
And
Whatever.
but maybe there is an equivalent. I don't know.
I don't know.
mean,
Let's dive into the subreddits. In longer versions of the film, Elliot was so pathetic that preview audiences squirmed. It was decided that a little went a long way, so it was trimmed down. So he was even more unbearable in a longer version.
Wow.
I'll buy that.
Near the end of the film, Elliot, Brendan Fraser, is seen riding his bike up Filbert Street in the Russian Hill neighborhood of San Francisco. The bike was pulled up a steep hill by a cable attached to a winch,
Oh my
which was
God.
erased in post-production.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Okay, so this bothered people enough to look deeper into that.
That is
That's
amazing.
so funny.
Okay.
'Cause
Wow.
we were all like,
Yeah.
whoa, calves.
Damn.
Yeah.
Fucking
Brendan.
calves.
I mean, he is
Hamstrings.
He's
zooming
up the hill.
Even
Yeah.
an electric bike can't do
no,
numbers like
no,
that.
absolutely not. They don't have the torque.
The mathematics homeworks that the devil removes from the classroom blackboard was effective to prove Fermat's last theorem, a legendary problem from 1630 that was often the subject of stories about people selling their souls to solve it. Selling their souls to solve it.
Wow.
The problem was eventually solved in 1995 by Andrew Wiles and colleagues with a computer, not satanic assistance.
Wow.
They have to add those little,
Yeah, those little quips.
a little bit of like zippiness. It's like, all right, just give me the trivia.
So Dina Appel, the film's costume designer, was highly recommended by Elizabeth Hurley to director Harold Ramis to work on the film after having worked with her on both Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery and Austin Powers' The Spy Who Shagged Me. And since her character required an extensive and varied wardrobe, she felt Appel was the perfect choice. So she's from the Austin Powers films, which now that I'm thinking about it, kind of makes total sense. Wow.
I mean, she was killing it at that era. Because Austin Powers was before. I think that was like late 90s.
99 or 97 or something, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. We should do an Austin Powers movie, shouldn't we?
Yeah, we should.
Right?
We should. We
It's
should
that's
do
like
gold-
that's
we
like
should
a
do
pretty
Goldmember.
big guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We should do
Yeah.
Goldmember
I don't know
for
if
sure.
anything would survive though. That talk about problematic.
Yeah.
Before we rate this movie though, since we're talking about making films, I want to talk about your film
Yeah.
that we're here to promote. Which one is it again?
Called
You've
Peak
done
Season.
two. Okay, you did Peak Season.
Yes,
You
yes,
also
yes.
made
The End of Us.
The End of Us, which you directed, co-wrote both of them with our other friend Henry Lovner from BuzzFeed Days 2. Like the fact, I'm trying to think of another BuzzFeeder who has made 2 movies or even made a full-fledged directed and wrote a movie since leaving. And I can't think of
I
one.
don't think there has been.
Maybe some like shorts and stuff that were pretty big, but like you've done the thing that we all set out to do.
Yeah.
How'd you do it?
It took a pandemic.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully, yeah. Like the short version of it is Henry and I were roommates at the time. We were talking about working together on
they
something.
were roommates.
We were roommates.
Wow.
I just moved in to that house, and then 2 months later, the pandemic happened, and we were like, "Oh, this is crazy." And then our friend Ben Coleman,
BuzzFeeder.
former BuzzFeeder, was telling us about situation with a breakup, and then that led to us being like, wow, that's a really good concept for a movie. Let's be the first people, or like try to be the first people to make a movie
during
the
quarantine.
pandemic.
Yeah.
And it was because of I think if like it weren't for the pandemic, we wouldn't have allowed ourselves to make something so like imperfect and rushed, because we were
How
just
long
like,
did it take from writing to shooting?
oh my God, we less than a month to write. We didn't even write like a full script. It
Oh my
was just
God.
like, we were just like, let's just go.
Yeah.
We'll do like a long outline or short script and get 2 actors, something really contained, and then shack up
had
in an
to be,
Airbnb
right?
and then just like rely on improvisation, shoot it in order. And so that whole experience of like making this movie with like absolute minimum resources, ironically was like enough to like get us over ourselves. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then
also
it
had
like
a
came out better than we thought it
release,
would.
and
Yeah.
also was in South by Southwest, the film festival.
The film festival.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we were.
Tell me about that moment.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, it's funny that this. I mean, I feel like this is true of anyone that makes anything. It's just like you hate it, and then finally like one person or one festival is like, you're in, and you're like, oh, I knew it was good.
Yeah,
You know?
I got it.
But
This
like,
wasn't a stupid idea.
yeah, I mean, before that, we were both just like, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
this is, people hate this. This sucks. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't look good. And then, of course, like, we were like, oh, wait, no, this is actually like, it's a light movie. It's a pandemic rom-com, essentially, about a couple that breaks up on the eve of the pandemic. They're stuck living together, and you know, hilarity ensues.
Yeah. And it got a semi-theatrical release. Like I got to see it in a movie theater, which was cool.
Yeah, yeah. It all of that was like icing on the cake. Like
Yeah.
honestly, like we just being able to sort of like prove to ourselves that we
Yeah.
could make a movie But it was like a lot of the stuff that we all sort of learned working in digital media and YouTube and like, wearing a lot of hats. I mean, you hear it a lot, but it's like, it's the truth that it's like, it's kind of the best film school in a lot of ways because we were just like, why don't we just shoot this with our cameras? We already want to edit it. We like lucky enough to know actors that are like cool with making a movie like this. Yeah. So that was the beginning of sort of Henry and my collaboration. And then we sort of scaled things up with Peak Season, which is, I guess by the time of this, will be out, available digitally for rental, purchase on the iTunes, the Amazons. It might be on a streaming service. I don't know yet.
Hell yeah, we're manifesting that shit. But tell us about how you went from like, okay, you get this huge fucking deal of getting into South by. Like that's every filmmaker's dream. It's your first like feature. Yeah, which is crazy. Even though you had filmed series and like you know this, but you're my favorite director, especially from BuzzFeed stuff. It's true. Anytime I could work with him, I did. And I forced you to many times against your will. I think I sat next to Kanter for like half of my career at BuzzFeed. And I think I bothered you more than we actually did any work. But you were always so gracious with your time and your energy and your talent. But you did a lot of the larger scale projects there too. Like you worked with Quinta and Freddie. You did like a Go 90s stuff. You did stuff with me with Watchable. Like you worked on all the large scale movies, the You Do You shit series thing, right? Like you did everything.
Well, I was there was, a small group of, I guess like the more sort of like just the people that were much more behind the camera that like, I don't know, are more filmic, I guess, in their taste. So there were a few of us that got to work on those larger sort of like branded series and stuff. And again, all of that was great. It was all good prep and sort of learning. But this was the first like long form, and then it gets into South by. So you're coming off this high of like, got a mini theatrical release. You've made a movie. You have like clout to your name as a filmmaker now. What do you do for your second? Well, it's indie film it's always been a difficult industry since there were films and then there were independent films. It's a particularly difficult time. Just less people go out to theaters, which affects how festivals work and what they're acquiring and blah, 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 blah. Not enough money to go around. So it was also kind of an education though, not to seem negative about it, but it was like, I had no idea of like how movies were distributed or like, do you need a sales agent and like how all that works. So I think if anything, it was also like kind of a good crash course in what we want to do next time, both creatively and then also with just like the business side of the film. But yeah, I mean, it was like the biggest high ever with South by, although it was virtual. It was, of course, virtual.
Because the Panini.
Yeah.
So the second one, you were like...
The second one...
We got to go outside. The first one was inside. Second one, we're going outside.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it worked out very, very well. I mean, so Henry and I were writing a lot and trying to come up with like what the next feature would be, and every idea... It was like we would get like a third of the way through a script or just like a full outline, and then it would be like, oh wait, that'll cost like $10 million. Oh shit, okay, let's go back to and then we just kept getting to this point of being like, man, I don't know, like this we could try to make this, but we're gonna be waiting to try to field enough investment or like get like a studio. And so eventually, Henry had this original script that he had written maybe a year or two before. That maybe he was a couple of passes in and he sort of brought it up on a whim. He was like, I wrote this thing. If we're looking to shoot something like this summer, this was January of 2022. He's like, we could take a look at this. It's kind of a contained thing. It's set in Jackson Hole. His family is from there. They've lived there for so he's from New Jersey, but his family, has lived in
I just also know he speaks Mandarin.
Oh, Mandarin, that's what it was.
Which was crazy the first time I met him. I was like, what?
Fluent. Very fluent. Yeah. He's a man of many talents.
Yeah, very cool.
So he had this connection to Jackson Hole. He'd always wanted to make a movie there. Plus there were advantages like being able to sort of utilize the resources of his family, like staying there to shoot a movie. And so I read this like this first or second draft and I was like, oh my God, like this is actually, I was like actually genuinely moved by it because it was funny, but also like very sincere and it felt very honest, and it's it's a romantic film. I guess you could call it a romantic comedy, but it's not like
what's the log line?
Tropey in that way. It's about a young woman in her early 30s who she travels with her fiance to Jackson Hole. He has family that are sort of in and around there. He comes for money. She doesn't. Classic. And he's sort of tied to his work, and she's in a bit of she's a consultant, so she's obviously like on a track to make a lot of money. She met her fiance in business school, but I don't know. She's in that thing of like, I don't know about my life right now, like consulting and et cetera, et cetera. They're in Jackson. Her fiance ends up having to do some work. He gets called away to do business, and she's sort of left there, and she ends up taking a fishing lesson with a young man.
I did that when I was in the
by yourself.
Parks.
You never talked about this
with a guy.
Just you and him.
No, my family. Yeah.
Okay. So
different.
Yeah, but that's
the
kind
thing
of
you do out there,
which is a big thing out there, and it's a big part of like Lauren, the character that she meets, the fishing guy played by Garrick Bernard.
Our other friend.
Yes, these are all former BuzzFeed people. He's what it's like a local term. They're called skids. So there's this population of like, young active people that live and work in Jackson Hole and other sort of mountainous sort of regions. Oftentimes in their cars or their trucks or
van lifing
because it's so expensive. Jackson Hole's also like
the premier skiing destination, the national park. It's like, it's cool.
I think it's one of, if not the highest, like it's the most affluent like region of the country. It's a lot of money.
So I have to guess, do they meet?
The
fishing guy and the girl?
Oh yeah. No. So they go. That's like early on. So it's like it's just she ends up going with him. She was supposed to go with her fiance, and thus begins potentially a friendship. Maybe something more, maybe something less. We don't know. But it's very much a movie that's, I don't know. It's very sort of grounded and sort of laid back, but also hopefully people see it as like authentic, and just even the feeling of like you go on vacation or you go on like a holiday, or when you're traveling, things are different.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're traveling alone or you're spending a lot of time alone traveling, and you're at a point in your life that's like a juncture. I don't know, man. Like sometimes you can get swept up in something, and maybe that's the right thing to do. Maybe I go with that, or maybe I'm just like
crazy,
have wanderlust right now. And so it's about that kind of relationship. Very before sunset kind of vibes.
You're saying all the right comps.
Good. Yeah. Good.
So you make this one again, like micro budget. You've got friends. You're coming off this one at South by. You get into South by again.
Back to back, baby.
Back to back South by director. Like insane. Like so cool and fucking crazy. And then it's also winning festivals all over the place. You're like touring with it. You're getting to speak. Now you're learning about the business. You're learning about distribution. Now it's in theaters and available to buy for streaming.
Yes.
I know you're probably hating this question, but people are like, what's next, right? Like, how do you enjoy this success and also be like, I made a movie, it's my baby, and now I'm still like a working director. What do you want to do? Like, you did the thing we all wanted, so you're done, right?
I'm done.
You pack it up, go back home.
I'm just playing golf. Playing a lot of golf.
No, you're like just hitting your tipping point or whatever the fuck it's called.
Yeah. I mean, it's been. The performance, the reception of both of like these movies, obviously, like we're like, oh my god, we don't know if this will ever happen again. So we're like, we've been trying to enjoy the moment and trying to enjoy, like even at South by, it was like trying to actually just like be present as much as it's impossible to. But the next step would be like, making money.
Yeah, someone paying you to make the film.
Yeah, I'm not asking for a lot.
No.
Just, but like, I think, so like the first film, just with regard to Henry and my like collaborations, like the first film was like as small as it can get. This one was, in a lot of ways, like a bigger project. Like it was a little bit of a bigger budget, a little bit of a bigger crew and bigger scale. And then conceptually it was a little bit like going for something more. So we still think that there is like a track of like growth there where we can, okay, let's go a little bit bigger. Let's go a little bit bigger. So TBD on the next film. I mean, there's stuff that's
Yeah.
percolating. And then in the meantime, there's some other things.
Yeah.
There's a comedy series idea that we're kind of working on.
Yes.
That we're taking an interesting approach. We're shooting basically. It's basically a web series. Let's just call it that.
Yeah.
We hate
We still
calling it a
make
web
those.
series.
Yeah, now it's vertical TikTok series.
I know. And we're not even doing it vertical. We're doing it square.
Oh wow, how vintage.
But we might have to.
Yeah.
Get it on
That's
TikTok.
really cool though. Like I feel like you're someone who loves movies the way we love movies. Like the reason why we make this podcast is because we like genuinely love watching films and we love talking about it with our friends. Like we do this shit offline. Me and you,
Yeah.
every time we get
Oh,
together,
yeah.
we're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And like you've done that thing and there's only like now the world is kind of your oyster. Is there anything like what's the dream if you could do anything? Because I know you're very talented at also specific genres, like you're a great writer, but like pie is the sky, what would you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely there's a lot of genres that I love, and part of the reason too, it's like I love a good rom-com even, but like a romantic film, of course, I like. Part of the impetus for us making, and this is just a little bit of like for people that are aspiring filmmakers or creators, is like sometimes you have to just work with the limitations you have, and we knew that we didn't want to make a sci-fi epic on a $10,000 shooting budget.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, what are types of movies? What are genres that we could like theoretically try to pull off with like a 2-person crew or a 3-person crew or whatever. So I think for me and Henry, like we definitely like more genre stuff as well. And I think there's a good cross section of like, something where the stakes are money, drugs, like
space, horror space, drug money. That's my pitch to you.
Horror space, drug money.
Yeah,
I like that.
take that with what you will. You have writers, actors, comics in the room. We will help.
I kind of like it.
Listen,
and we'll workshop it.
Yeah, my money is on you. I'm betting against you. Again, it's called Peak Season.
Peak Season.
It's out now to download,
It's
to
also
buy.
stunning. It's very pretty.
It's very
Thank
pretty.
It's a pretty movie.
Oh, I didn't even mention that part of it. Trying to sell this movie. It's also just like it's beautiful. This is my first time going to Jackson Hole, and it's very arguably one of the most beautiful places in the country, if not the world.
If you've never been to a national park, go stand in awe in it.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, so much standing in awe.
Yeah, stand in awe. Breathe in the deep mountain air.
Oh, it's so clear. It's so crystal clear.
Okay, so now that we've talked about your movie, we've talked about your favorite guilty pleasure. Now's the time in the show where we have to decide, is Bedazzled a guilty pleasure, a pleasure, or just plain guilty? Kanter, why should people watch this film? What is it for you?
To me, sure. There are some.
Like there should be some music playing in the background.
America, we're in a difficult time. No, we are in a difficult time.
I'd like your money.
Yeah.
This movie, for all of its flaws, I feel like the flaws are relatively minor and they're relatively trivial. And the only time I could see this being sort of like guilty is if somebody comes in like expecting, I don't know, something revolutionary and like has the wrong sort of context for watching this movie. To me, this is pure pleasure. I mean, this is like eating this is like having some ice cream.
Yes.
But it's not the highest fat content, but it's also not sugar free.
Yeah.
Sorbet. Or it's a gelato. As you're strolling.
Yes, you're strolling
the streets
Italy.
of Italy.
Yeah. You're walking it off as you
Yeah,
eat it.
you're walking it off, but you're having forced.
You're actually losing weight.
You're technically losing weight.
It's free.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's pleasure to me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I didn't want to like be like, it's a pleasure to me, but I had a hard time finding guilt. Like I just enjoyed it. I just had a fun, fucking goofy afternoon watching it.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that is like technically flawed.
Yeah.
Like, but
Very,
even still, you're like, I don't give a shit.
No.
Yeah, I am thoroughly entertained by everything that is coming across my screen right now. And so it is really tough to say like, oh no, this is like guilty pleasure or anything like that. It is just like, maybe if you were to say anything, it would be like a small guilty
a small
pleasure.
G,
Where I'm the
full P.
small G, full P, where I'm like, it's also, it's not something you've seen before.
Yeah.
it's not a format you've really seen before where it's
Right.
just like beginning, middle is all sketches. And
Yeah.
it's definitely a harder thing to do because people like greater people, quote unquote, greater people have tried to do a sketch movie and have failed and fallen flat on their face. Whereas this one kind of soars throughout it. And so I feel like in the face of that difficulty, shining this hard absolutely makes it a pleasure in no way, shape, in every way, shape.
I'm gonna just copy paste what you said. I think the smallest G I don't know if it's just like any movie made before 2010 or something. For me, we'll just have that like nostalgia lens that makes it like a little bit harder to watch. But because it fucking nailed it for back then, I think it's like capital P. Capital.
Yeah, it's like if you existed in Letterboxd.
Yes.
If you existed in Letterboxd, like, sure, it's a guilty pleasure, but like also that community is going to torch
your opinions.
Like they're going to torch it just based on the
Are you on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta find
I'm not actively reviewing things. I like to keep a low prof. I use it to track.
I'm gonna find peak season full 5 stars.
Oh, that's part of the too is tracking peak season.
Yeah, track peak season
It's
on
scary.
Letterboxd. I don't know. I think we could zoom through my pleasures. My pleasures is where we just tell you what media we're listening to, watching to, want to recommend.
We don't have to. If you want to, we can.
I kind of want to just because I feel like this is important for the guilty horse to hear. Only because I've been railed by these motherfuckers for this. I finally watched Lord of the Rings.
Oh God! Wow!
I know.
Wait, you hadn't seen?
I
hadn't seen
hadn't
it.
fucking seen it. I'd
Because
seen.
I feel like. Okay.
I had not
what
only
you're
not
about
seen it,
to
but
say-
I've kind of always shat on it for trying to be like a thing.
trying to be a thing.
I am.
It was the
Oh my God, this
original
is the
thing.
wrong- That's what I was gonna say. Is I'm going, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
The whole
As
fucking
you're
time, like you're kidding me. You have a character that's basically Aragog and a giant spider, and you're not gonna tell me Joanne did not fucking steal every bit of Harry Potter from Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
This bitch kind of stole everything.
Yeah. It is like watching Dune and then Star Wars after. You're like, you little bitch.
Yes!
You took all of this.
Not fair. And then
Yeah.
like I was kind of gate kept from Lord of the Rings for like being a Harry Potter stan.
Yeah.
So now I'm waking up is what I'm trying to say.
Great.
So that's my my pleasure.
So you
What
did
do you-
all three.
I have an hour left of the third one.
You're not even at.
You're not
the
even.
end of the
You're not
term
even
yet?
in the shit
I'm
yet,
not
Oh my
baby.
God.
I had to leave for this podcast, and to my partner, I was like, wait. Like, there's got to be like 10 minutes left. We're in the big battle. And he goes,
Oh,
we have
man.
an hour
Yeah.
and change left.
Yeah, you're not even.
That's
this
my
is
pleasure.
you're in the
Exciting.
third one. You said.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's your pleasure?
Oh, right. Yeah, you asked me this before. Okay, what's a recent pleasure? Mine are kind of like, it's boring. Sopranos. I've never fully watched the series, so that's similar.
about
That's
some,
kind of
like,
on par with the Lord of the Rings.
Rings, yeah.
So that was recently. What's like a cool one? Oh, here we go. It's a YouTube relatively recent, last few months. So I've been on like a 60s and 70s like talk show sort of like kick,
Okay.
but not Carson. I'm talking Dick Cavett.
Whoa.
Okay. This
Real
sounds
throwback.
so lame
Yeah,
as
what
I
the
describe it,
fuck?
but it's actually dope because I love like a lot of 70s music. And I've just been like, I don't know. I've been like, I loved it like in high school. I went through like a Led Zeppelin phase
Yeah,
and I
of
was just
course.
into that whole like era. And I'm like kind of getting back into it. But Dick Cavett, are you familiar with Dick
I
Cavett?
know the name.
He was one of the late night hosts who, in my opinion, was like very clear. Like he was the best.
Yeah.
Because he's having like, he got the best guests.
Yeah.
He got John Lennon. He got Miles Davis. He got Orson Welles like several times. And he would have like directors come on that would never
Do that. Yeah.
and it's the experience of watching like clips and like full episodes of this on YouTube is actually, it's like looking into truly like a different dimension.
Wow,
And it's
that's
crazy
cool.
that this was like, because it's pre-internet. It's so wild to see like TV, like live TV, where he's like having Oscar Peterson, who's like a great jazz pianist, and they're like, it's like a masterclass. It's like so
Wow.
in depth.
Like actors on actors. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. So I know it sounds like homework, but it's not.
No, it
it's also
sounds
like
cool.
really interesting and like
Yeah.
it's just like who does he have on? He has like Sly Stone from Silent Family Stone, just like blazed out of his mind and just like saying insane things for like 30 minutes.
Oh man,
I'm
go watch
into
a
this.
highlight reel. Best of Dick Cavett.
Yeah, Dick Cavett.
Dick Cavett.
Dick
On
Cavett.
YouTube.
That's my
Rick,
that's my shit.
What you got? What's your pleasure?
Oh man, I'm back in my fucking watching comedy specials bag, and
yeah, me too. Weirdly.
it's been a great time.
Yeah.
Love it. But Langston Kerman's Bad Poetry,
Okay.
very, very, very good. Very, very, very funny. He is a friend of mine. It doesn't matter. I'm not trying to be biased. I do think that was one of the better and more concise and succinct specials that I've seen in the past like couple years.
What streamer? How do we watch?
It's on Netflix.
Okay. What's it called? Bad Poetry?
It's really, really good. It definitely hits like a almost like Chris Rockian type of like I'm not that he's saying the punchline, but everything is connected and woven together in a really, really nice way.
Yeah.
And so I definitely feel like if anybody's like a fan of comedy and like stand-up specials and has been watching the progression of the comedy special, this one definitely pushes it forward.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
And what was his name? Langston?
Langston Kerman.
I fucking love that name.
Yeah, it's
Great
great.
name.
It sounds made up like a character.
Yeah.
Langston Kerman is here to see you,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, this was so fun. I loved having my friend here. You're also my friend and you're also my friend. And hey, Guilty Horrors, you're also our friends.
Yeah.
Kanter, where do you want to be found? Where should the people follow you and find your stuff?
You know.
God, you're
follow
really
my
in your
movie.
Larry David. There you go.
Follow my movie, Peak Season, peakseasonfilm.com, Peak Season on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, it's just my name, Stephen Kanter, Kanter.
That's right.
That's it.
Thanks
That's
for
it.
coming.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. This has been a
You're
blast.
welcome back anytime you want to talk about silly stuff.
Yeah.
That's all we got for this week. Guilty Horrors. I'm Zach Kornfeld on all the things. I'm Kelsey Darragh on all the things.
I'm Garrick Bernard on all the things.
And until next time, ¿Dónde Juan? ¿Dónde Esteban? ¿Dónde está la biblioteca?